AITA for refusing to go to my sister's wedding after she uninvited my husband because he's too embarrassing? I, 28F, have an older sister, Claire, 32F, who has always been very particular about appearances. Ever since we were kids, she's been the perfect one, top grades, homecoming queen, straight A student, now a successful marketing executive marrying her equally perfect fiancé Brad. My parents adore them. Meanwhile, I've always been the artsy, quiet one who never quite fit the mold. I met my husband, Luke, 30M, 5 years ago. He's funny, kind, and incredibly supportive. He works as a mechanic and loves what he does. He's one of those people who can talk to anyone and make them laugh. He's got a bit of a goofy sense of humor, and he's not what you'd call polished, but he's genuine. When we first started dating, Claire and my parents weren't rude to him, but they definitely acted a little superior. My mom even once said, "He's nice, but he's not really what I pictured for you." I brushed it off because I knew they just had different priorities. Fast forward to a few months ago when Claire started wedding planning. She asked me to be her maid of honor, which surprised me, but also made me happy. I started helping her plan the bachelorette weekend, making decorations, and attending fittings. Luke was invited to everything related to the wedding: engagement party, rehearsal dinner, ceremony, reception. Everything seemed fine. Then, about a month ago, we had a family dinner at my parents' house. Luke was telling a story about a funny incident at work involving a customer's pet snake that got loose in the shop. He can be animated when he tells stories, and everyone was laughing, except Claire. She gave this tight smile and rolled her eyes. Later that night, I overheard her whispering to my mom about how Luke always has to be the center of attention and that his jokes are kind of lowbrow. I confronted her about it later, and she brushed it off, saying she was just stressed. I let it go. Then 2 weeks ago, she called me and said she had to make a really tough decision. She told me that she and Brad had decided they didn't want Luke at the wedding. I honestly thought she was joking at first, but she said, "He's sweet, but he doesn't fit the aesthetic we're going for. Brad's family is very formal, and I don't want them to think we're tacky." I was stunned. I asked her what that was supposed to mean, and she said things like, he just doesn't really understand how to behave at events like this, and that she was afraid he'd say something inappropriate. She insisted it was nothing personal, just about the vibe. I told her if my husband wasn't welcome, then I wouldn't be coming either. She freaked out and accused me of making her wedding about myself. I told her I wasn't trying to make it about me, but I wouldn't go somewhere my husband was banned for being himself. My parents then got involved. My mom called and said I was being dramatic, that Claire was under a lot of stress and just wanted everything to go smoothly. My dad said Luke would understand if he really loved me. That line made me furious. Luke told me he didn't want to be the reason I missed my sister's wedding, but he also said he wasn't going to grovel for an invitation to an event where he's clearly not wanted. He said, "I'd rather stay home and watch the game than sit there pretending everything's fine while people judge me for how I talk or what I wear." A few days ago, Claire sent me a long message saying she was heartbroken that I'm choosing a man over family. I replied that Luke is my family. She hasn't spoken to me since. The wedding is in 3 weeks, and my mom keeps sending guilt trip messages like, "You'll regret not being there for your only sister's big day." I love my sister, but I can't bring myself to support her after what she did. Last night, my dad called again. He said Claire was crying because she'd already told her guests that her sister was her maid of honor, and now she doesn't know what to do. He asked if I could just show up for the ceremony without Luke for appearances. I told him absolutely not. If Luke's not welcome, I'm not either. Now, apparently, Brad's family has heard about the drama, and they think I'm being unreasonable. They told Claire she did the right thing, because weddings should be about the couple's comfort. My mom says I've humiliated Claire by making this public, even though I haven't said anything outside the family. The thing is, I can see why Claire would want everything to go perfectly. She's always been image conscious, but banning someone because they're not fancy enough? That feels cruel and classist. A few people have suggested I just go alone to keep the peace, but I can't shake the feeling that if I do that, I'm validating her behavior, that it's okay to treat my husband like he's beneath them. Luke told me he'll support whatever I decide, but I know it hurts him. He tried so hard to be liked by my family, and it feels like no matter what he does, he'll never measure up. Now my parents have hinted that if I don't go, it might affect future family events, which sounds like a threat, honestly. I don't want to lose my relationship with them, but I also can't just abandon my principles. So here I am, stuck between my family and my husband, wondering if I've taken things too far. I keep thinking maybe I could just attend the ceremony briefly and skip the reception, but even that feels like betraying him. Claire's been posting on social media about dealing with betrayal and toxic people lately, which I'm pretty sure is about me. Part of me feels guilty because she's my sister, and this was supposed to be her big day. But another part of me is angry and heartbroken that she thinks my husband isn't good enough to even be in the room. I know weddings are emotional, but this feels deeper. It feels like a clear line in the sand about how my family views me and the life I've built. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she uninvited my husband for being too embarrassing. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. AITA for refusing to babysit my sister's kids anymore after she accused me of trying to replace her as their mom. I, 29F, have always been the responsible sibling. My younger sister Kayla, 26F, has 2 kids, a 6-year-old boy named Max and a 3-year-old girl named Ellie. She had Max when she was 20 and Ellie a few years later with a different father. Both fathers are out of the picture, so it's mostly been her and the kids. I love my niece and nephew to death, and since I don't have kids myself, I've been the default babysitter, emergency contact, and occasional fun aunt. For years, I've helped out whenever she needed it. Watching the kids overnight, driving them to school, buying groceries when she was short on money, and even paying for Ellie's preschool deposit when Kayla forgot a budget for it. I never minded. I have a decent job, live close by, and figured helping family is just what you do. But things changed earlier this year when Kayla got a new boyfriend, Dylan, 33M. He's one of those alpha types, constantly talking about respect and boundaries while never respecting anyone else's. He moved into her apartment within 2 months, and since then, things have gone downhill. The first sign of tension came when Max told me that Mommy and Dylan say you don't have to come over so much anymore. That stung because I thought I was helping. When I asked Kayla about it, she brushed it off and said, Dylan just thinks I rely on you too much. I said that if she wanted space, I'd totally understand, but she quickly said, no, I still need you to watch them when I work weekends. So basically, I was good enough to babysit, but not to be around too much. A few weeks ago, Kayla asked me to watch the kids overnight so she and Dylan could go to a concert out of town. I agreed, as usual. The next morning, Max woke up with a fever, so I texted her asking if she wanted me to take him to urgent care. She didn't reply for hours, so I went ahead and took him myself. Turned out it was strep throat, so I picked up his antibiotics and tucked him in. When Kayla got home that night, she completely lost it. She started yelling that I overstepped, that I made her look like a bad mom by taking him to the doctor without her permission. I told her I only did it because she didn't answer my texts and Max was miserable. She said I should have just waited it out and that Dylan thought it was inappropriate for me to take charge of her kids. I was stunned. I reminded her that I've taken care of those kids since they were babies, and I only ever did what was best for them. She said, yeah, but you're not their mom. You're starting to act like you want to be. That really hurt. I told her I would never try to replace her, that I just wanted to make sure Max was okay. She stormed out of my apartment with the kids, and I didn't hear from her for a couple of weeks. Then last month, she called me sobbing, saying Dylan had been arrested after a fight at a bar. She begged me to pick up the kids from daycare because she was at the police station. I did, of course. When she came over later, she was quiet and exhausted. I tried not to say anything judgmental. I helped her put the kids to bed and made her dinner. She said she didn't know what she'd do without me. I thought maybe that meant things were better, but apparently not. 2 weeks ago, Max's school called me during work because Kayla had listed me as the emergency contact. He'd thrown up in class, and they couldn't reach her. So I left work early, picked him up, and brought him home. When Kayla finally called back, she sounded annoyed and said she wasn't expecting the school to actually call me. She told me Dylan thought it was weird that I kept inserting myself into their lives and that she needed to start setting clearer boundaries. At that point, something inside me snapped. I told her she didn't need to worry about setting boundaries because I was done babysitting or handling her emergencies. I said I love the kids, but I couldn't keep being treated like some sort of threat for helping. She immediately started crying, saying I was abandoning her and the kids and that she couldn't manage without me. I told her I'd always be their aunt, but I wasn't going to keep stepping into a parental role just for her to accuse me of trying to replace her. She hung up on me. Now, a bunch of our family members are involved. Our mom says I should just let it go because Kayla is under a lot of stress and Dylan is manipulating her. But my dad, who can't stand Dylan, says I'm doing the right thing and that Kayla needs to learn responsibility. The thing is, I feel awful. Max keeps asking why I don't come around as much. Kayla sends me guilt-trippy texts like, the kids miss you so much, but I understand if you don't want to be around us anymore. I'm trying to hold my boundary, but it feels like I'm punishing the kids for their mom's choices. Last weekend, our mom begged me to watch them again because Kayla had to work and couldn't find sitter. I said no. Mom said I was proving Dylan right by being vindictive. That made me so angry I almost cried. I never wanted this to be a fight. I just wanted to help my sister and love my niece and nephew. But apparently, that's been twisted into me trying to replace her, which couldn't be further from the truth. I still check in on the kids when I can, like dropping off small gifts or sending video messages. But Kayla acts cold when I do. It's like she wants my help, but also resents me for giving it. So now I'm stuck wondering, was I wrong to pull back? Should I have just kept helping despite her accusations? Everyone seems divided. Half my family says I'm right to protect my boundaries. The other half says family doesn't give up on family. I don't know anymore. I feel like no matter what I do, someone gets hurt. AITA for refusing to babysit or help with my sister's kids after she accused me of trying to replace her as their mom. AITA for refusing to take down a family rules sign that I made, even though it caused a huge fight with my wife and stepdaughter. I, 38M, have been married to my wife, Jenna, 41F, for 3 years. She has a daughter, Lily, 15F, from a previous relationship. I don't have biological kids, but I've tried really hard to be a good stepdad. When I first moved in, I didn't want to overstep, so I let Jenna take the lead with parenting decisions. Over time, though, I noticed that Lily could be difficult. She's not a bad kid, but she's extremely moody, argumentative, and entitled at times. She's the kind of teenager who rolls her eyes at everything, keeps her door locked, and spends hours on her phone while refusing to help with even basic chores. At first, I chalked it up to normal teen behavior. But after a while, it started to feel less like typical teenage rebellion and more like she just didn't respect me, or anyone really. She would talk back to her mom, refuse to do her part around the house, and act like any request was some kind of personal attack. If I asked her to put her dish in the dishwasher, she'd sigh dramatically and say, "You're not my real dad." Jenna usually brushed it off and told me Lily was just going through a phase. But the phase has lasted the entire 3 years I've known her, and it's gotten worse. Every attempt I've made to connect with her, like helping with homework, teaching her to drive, or offering to take her to concerts, has been met with sarcasm or indifference. A few months ago, I suggested to Jenna that we needed to establish some kind of household expectations. Not strict rules, just some agreed-upon standards so we're all on the same page. She agreed, but she's not very consistent with enforcing things, especially when it comes to Lily. So, one weekend when they were both out, I decided to make something. I'm into woodworking, so I crafted a sign to hang in our entryway. It said, "Our family rules respect each other. Respect each other. Take responsibility for your space and mess. Take responsibility for your space and mess. Speak kindly or stay quiet. Speak kindly or stay quiet. Help out without being asked. Help out without being asked. No phones at the dinner table. No phones at the dinner table. Apologize when you're wrong. Apologize when you're wrong. Family first. Always. Family first. Always. I thought it looked nice, polished wood, engraved letters, kind of rustic. It wasn't meant to be authoritarian or controlling. I genuinely wanted it to be a positive reminder of what makes a home function smoothly. I even included family first because I wanted Lily to feel like I saw us all as one unit, not just her mom and me. When they came home, I was excited to show them. Jenna's first reaction was, "Oh, wow, you made this," but her smile quickly faded when she read the rules. Lily laughed and said, "This is so cringe. What are we in a cult?" I told her it wasn't supposed to be strict, just values we all could live by. She rolled her eyes, muttered something about me being obsessed with control, and went to her room. Jenna said it was sweet but unnecessary, and that Lily might feel like I was trying to parent her instead of being a partner. I was honestly hurt. I spent hours on that sign, trying to do something good for the family. A few days later, I noticed the sign was gone. I found it in the garage, face down under a pile of shoes. I confronted Jenna, and she admitted that Lily had taken it down because it made her uncomfortable. Jenna said she didn't stop her because she didn't want to cause another fight. That was the last straw for me. I told Jenna that allowing a teenager to dictate what can or can't be in our shared living space was ridiculous. I put the sign back up. This time, I used sturdier hooks. Cue chaos. Lily freaked out, saying I was forcing my fake family rules on her and that it was creepy how I was trying to play dad. Jenna told me I was being stubborn and that if Lily didn't like it, we should respect her feelings. I said respect is a two-way street, that the sign literally promotes respect, and if she's uncomfortable with that, maybe that's the problem. That night, Jenna slept in Lily's room. She said she needed space to think. The next morning, she told me I'd crossed a line by pushing my agenda and making Lily feel unwelcome in her own home. I told her the sign was about unity, not control, but she said the way I handled it, putting it back up after it was removed, was undermining her parenting. We've barely spoken for a week. The sign is still up, though I can feel the tension radiating off both of them every time they pass it. Jenna told me that if I really cared about Lily feeling comfortable, I'd take it down and apologize. I told her that if she really cared about our relationship, she'd stop letting a teenager dictate the tone of her household. Now I'm stuck. I don't think I did anything wrong. The rules aren't extreme. They're literally about respect, kindness, and accountability. Values any family should have. I'm not trying to replace Lily's father. I'm just trying to be part of the home I help pay for and maintain. But Jenna says it's not about the content of the sign. It's about the symbolism. She says the sign feels like me trying to lay down the law without consulting her or considering Lily's feelings. I get that maybe I should have talked to them before hanging it, but I also think it's unreasonable that something so innocent has turned into a declaration of war. I've talked to a few friends, and the responses are mixed. Some say it's ridiculous that Jenna and Lily are making such a big deal over a piece of decor. Others say that, since I'm not Lily's biological dad, I should have gone through Jenna first for any kind of family rule discussion. The truth is, I'm tired of walking on eggshells in my own home. Every time I try to assert any kind of shared responsibility, it's seen as me trying too hard. If I step back, I'm accused of not being involved enough. It feels like there's no winning. Now, Jenna's hinting that maybe we need a break so she and Lily can reset. That feels like a huge overreaction to a wooden sign, but maybe it's more than that. Maybe it's about control and who really runs this house. So I need some outside perspective. Am I really the jerk for standing by the idea that our home should have mutual respect and refusing to take down a sign that represents that? Or am I blind to how this might come across to a 15-year-old girl who never asked for me to be here in the first place? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she chose my ex as her best man? So, for context, I, 29F, have an older sister, Amelia, 32F. We've always been close, though our relationship has had its ups and downs. She's loud, charming, and has a way of drawing people in. I'm quieter and tend to stay in the background. Growing up, I was used to Amelia being the center of attention. Birthday parties, school plays, even family dinners somehow always revolved around her. I didn't really mind. She was the golden child, and I was fine being the quieter sibling. About 5 years ago, I started dating someone named Jack, 31M. He was funny, attentive, and very social. We dated for almost 3 years, and I genuinely thought he might be the one. My family loved him, especially Amelia. She and Jack got along well, which I thought was great at first. They'd joke together, text memes, and occasionally hang out when I wasn't around. I remember feeling a bit uneasy sometimes, but Jack always reassured me that they were just friends. Then, 2 years ago, Jack broke up with me out of nowhere. No big fight, no cheating, as far as I knew. Just a classic I need space speech. I was devastated. I cried for weeks, and my sister was the one who comforted me. She said all the right things, how I deserved better, how he was an idiot, how I'd move on soon. She even came over to help me pack up the things he'd left behind. Fast forward about 8 months later, and Amelia announced she was engaged to a guy named Ryan. I was thrilled for her. He's a genuinely nice guy. I helped with decorations, went dress shopping, and even helped her write her vows. Everything was fine until a few months ago, when she casually mentioned that she wanted to include Jack in her wedding party. At first, I thought she meant as a guest, which would have been awkward, but manageable. But no, she said she was thinking of making him her best man. Apparently, after my breakup, Jack stayed in touch with both Amelia and Ryan. Over time, they became close friends. She said he was like a brother to her now. I thought she was joking. I told her flat out that it would be incredibly uncomfortable for me. Jack and I haven't spoken since the breakup. Seeing him again, especially at my sister's wedding, would be emotionally draining. I explained how it felt like a betrayal, considering how long we dated and how much pain that breakup caused me. Amelia brushed it off, saying I needed to let go of the past and not make everything about myself. She told me she didn't want to exclude someone important to her just because I had old feelings. I reminded her that it wasn't just about feelings, it was about respect. She said she'd think about it. But a week later, she announced the official wedding party lineup on Instagram. And there he was, Jack, listed as her best man. I called her immediately. She told me she had decided to go through with it because she couldn't imagine the day without him. I was stunned. I told her I wouldn't be attending if he was there in that role. She accused me of being selfish and dramatic, said it was just one day, and that I was ruining her happiness over a guy who doesn't even matter anymore. Our parents got involved. My mom said I should be the bigger person and support my sister no matter what. My dad was more sympathetic, but still urged me to go, saying that refusing would cause a rift in the family. I told them I needed to protect my peace, and if attending meant sitting through an entire event centered around both my sister and my ex, I just couldn't do it. A few weeks later, Amelia sent me a long message saying she was hurt that I was choosing to boycott her wedding. She said it would embarrass her to have people ask why her only sister wasn't there. I told her she made her choice when she picked my ex as her best man, knowing how it would make me feel. She replied, "You're choosing resentment over love." Here's where it gets worse. A mutual friend told me Amelia and Jack had actually gone on a few friendly dinners together before she even got engaged to Ryan. Nothing romantic, supposedly, but the timeline felt suspicious. I confronted her, and she swore nothing inappropriate happened, but I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to it. Now the wedding is coming up in 2 weeks. My family keeps pressuring me to just go for appearance's sake. My mom even suggested I could sit in the back and leave after the ceremony if it was too hard. Amelia hasn't spoken to me directly since that last text, though she's been making cryptic posts online about forgiveness and family loyalty. Part of me wonders if I'm overreacting. Maybe it really is just one day, and maybe I should put aside my discomfort for her happiness. But another part of me feels like this is just the latest example of Amelia prioritizing her own spotlight over anyone else's feelings. I keep thinking about how she used to tease me for being too sensitive when we were kids, and how this situation feels like a grown-up version of that dynamic. Ryan texted me recently, saying he wishes I'd come because Amelia's been stressed and crying about it. He said he understands why I'm hurt, but thinks I'll regret missing it. I told him I wish her well, but couldn't be part of something that felt so disrespectful to me. Now I'm torn. My therapist says I'm allowed to set boundaries, but my family says I'm being vindictive. It's not like I want to ruin her wedding. I just don't want to sit there smiling while my sister celebrates the biggest day of her life with someone who broke my heart standing right beside her. So, am I the asshole for refusing to go to my sister's wedding because she chose my ex as her best man? AITA for refusing to babysit my sister's kids after she called me lazy for not having any of my own? I, 32F, have always had a complicated relationship with my sister, Amanda, 35F. We were close as kids, but somewhere along the line, things changed. Amanda got married right after college and started having kids almost immediately. She now has 3, 9M, 6F, and 2F. I, on the other hand, chose a different path. I work in marketing, live alone, travel often, and enjoy my independence. I've never felt the urge to have kids, which Amanda seems to view as both a moral failing and a personal attack. For years, she's made subtle digs, comments like, "You'll understand when you have real responsibilities," or "You wouldn't get it. You don't have anyone depending on you." I usually brushed it off. But recently, things came to a head. Last month, my parents hosted a big family barbecue. Everyone was there: Amanda, her husband Mark, my parents, cousins, and a few family friends. It was supposed to be a relaxed afternoon. But as soon as Amanda arrived, she handed me the baby monitor and said, "Can you keep an eye on the kids? You're always saying how much you love being the fun aunt." I laughed it off and said, "Sure, but I'd like to actually enjoy the barbecue too. Maybe we could take turns." She rolled her eyes and said, "Oh, come on, I'm exhausted. You don't have anything else to do." That stung, but I still agreed to watch them for a bit. The kids are great, energetic and sweet, but watching 3 of them, including a toddler who tries to eat everything in sight, is a full-time job. After about an hour, I went to get some food. Amanda was sitting with a group of adults, sipping wine and chatting. When she saw me, she called out, "Where are the kids?" I said, "Playing with Dad. He wanted to show them the pond." Amanda frowned. "So you just handed them off? You're not taking this seriously." I asked what she meant by taking this seriously, and she went on this long rant about how I don't understand real work because I don't have children. She said I was lazy for choosing a life without responsibilities and implied that because I'm single and child-free, I should be the one to help out more with family duties. Everyone got quiet. My mom tried to smooth things over, but I was furious. I told Amanda that I have responsibilities, just not the same ones as hers, and that I'm not her built-in babysitter. She scoffed and said, "You wouldn't even know what real tired feels like." At that point, I told her loud enough for everyone to hear, "If being tired is the price for having your attitude, I'll happily stay well-rested." The whole table went silent. Amanda got up, grabbed her kids, and left early. A few days later, she texted me, "I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings, but you have to admit, you do have it easy. I'm drowning in responsibilities, and it feels unfair that you get to live stress-free." I told her that her choices were her own, and that I'm not obligated to make her life easier just because she's struggling. I also said that I wouldn't be babysitting for her anymore, not out of spite, but because it clearly wasn't appreciated. She never replied. Fast forward 2 weeks. My mom called me in tears, saying Amanda told her I'd abandoned the family and refused to help in a time of need. Apparently, Amanda had an emergency. Mark's car broke down, and she needed someone to watch the kids while she handled it. When she called me, and I said no, she accused me of punishing her children over an adult argument. Mom sided with Amanda, saying family helps family, and that I was being selfish. Dad, on the other hand, said he understood where I was coming from and that Amanda has been taking advantage of me for years. Still, the whole thing has caused a huge rift. Amanda has been sending passive-aggressive texts since things like, "Hope you're enjoying your perfect little child-free life while I'm doing everything alone." I've tried ignoring them, but it's exhausting. To make matters worse, some of our extended family took Amanda's side after she posted a vague Facebook status about certain people refusing to help family because they think they're too good for parenting duties. I didn't respond publicly, but a few cousins messaged me privately to ask what happened. When I told them the full story, most said they understood, but one cousin said, "You could have just helped her that one time. It wouldn't kill you." The thing is, it's not just one time. Amanda has relied on me constantly. Birthdays, errands, date nights, you name it. It's been years of can you just watch them for an hour? That turns into an entire day. I used to help because I love my nieces and nephew, but now I feel like she only sees me as free childcare. I told my mom I need some distance, at least for a while, and she said I'm overreacting and being dramatic. But I can't shake the feeling that this is about more than babysitting. It's about Amanda not respecting my life because it doesn't look like hers. She chose motherhood. I chose independence. That doesn't make either of us better or worse, but she seems unable to accept that. I've been going back and forth about whether I went too far by refusing to help during her emergency. Part of me wonders if I should have just stepped in that one time for the sake of peace. But another part of me feels like giving in again would have taught her that she can treat me however she wants and still expect favors afterward. Now, our relationship feels like it's hanging by a thread. My parents are divided, the family is gossiping, and I'm stuck wondering if standing my ground made me the bad guy. So, am I the asshole for refusing to babysit after my sister called me lazy for not having kids? AITA for telling my brother's fiancée that I won't attend their wedding after she uninvited my daughter for aesthetic reasons? I, 36F, have a daughter, Emma, 7, from a previous relationship. She's my world. She's bubbly, creative, and yes, she can be a little loud and silly sometimes, but she's 7. I remarried 5 years ago to my husband, Matt, 38M, who's an amazing stepdad to Emma. We have a calm, happy home life. My younger brother, Luke, 32M, has always been close to me. Our parents died when we were young, and I basically helped raise him. So when he got engaged to his fiancée, Hannah, 30F, I was genuinely thrilled for him. Hannah and I got along decently. She's organized, very image-conscious, and loves throwing fancy dinner parties. I sometimes found her a bit controlling, but nothing that ever crossed a serious line. The wedding planning began last year, and Hannah made it clear she wanted it to be a high-end, elegant event. Everything was going to be perfectly curated. Black tie, no children, custom floral arrangements, champagne tower, the works. I didn't mind the no kids rule. Lots of people do that. I figure Matt and I would attend, and Emma would stay with my mother-in-law for the weekend. But about 3 months ago, Hannah called me with special news. She said they decided to allow a few exceptions to the no kids rule for family optics, and that Emma could come after all. I thought that was nice of them, and I told Emma she'd get to see her uncle get married. She was thrilled. She started talking about what kind of dress she could wear, and even made a little drawing of her and Luke dancing. Fast forward to last week. I was on my lunch break when I got another call from Hannah. Her tone was nervous but polite. She said they were finalizing the guest list and seating arrangements, and she wanted to revisit Emma's attendance. I asked what she meant, and she launched into this explanation that they'd hired a wedding photographer who specialized in luxury editorial-style imagery, and that, unfortunately, having young kids around could ruin the aesthetic of the photos. I honestly thought she was joking. I even laughed and said, "You mean kids being kids, right?" But she doubled down. She said that Emma doesn't always sit still and can be unpredictable, and that she was worried about Emma distracting from the visual harmony of the ceremony. I was stunned silent for a few seconds before I asked if she was seriously uninviting my daughter because she might not fit the aesthetic. Hannah sighed and said, "It's not personal. I just want the pictures to reflect our vision." I told her I'd have to think about that and ended the call quickly before I said something I'd regret. When I told Matt, he immediately said, "Then we're not going." He was furious. He adores Emma and couldn't believe Luke would go along with something so shallow. I wasn't ready to make that decision yet, though. I called Luke that evening to ask if he knew about this. He sounded uncomfortable and admitted he did. He said Hannah brought it up after seeing some family photos I'd posted online. Apparently, Emma had been making funny faces in one of them, and Hannah said it gave her anxiety about how she might behave at the wedding. Luke said he tried to convince her otherwise, but she got really upset and accused him of not caring about her vision for her once-in-a-lifetime day. I told him I understood that weddings are stressful, but this was beyond rude. He said, "I know, but can't you just come without her? It's only one day." I told him I wasn't comfortable attending a wedding that treats my child like an eyesore. After that, I sent Hannah a text that said, "I'm sorry, But if Emma isn't welcome, then neither am I. I wish you both the best." She didn't reply, but the next day Luke called, angry. He said I was overreacting and making things harder for him. He said Hannah was crying because she feels like I'm punishing her for caring about her wedding. I told him that this wasn't about punishment. It was about respect. He accused me of making everything about Emma, and I said, "She's my daughter. Of course I care when someone excludes her for superficial reasons." He hung up on me. Since then, things have spiraled. My aunt called to say Luke is telling relatives I boycotted his wedding out of jealousy. Hannah's mother apparently told people that Emma is a handful and that I should teach her how to behave before bringing her to formal events. My phone's been blowing up with family group chat messages, half supporting me, half calling me dramatic. What really stings is that Emma overheard me on the phone one night. She asked, "Did I do something bad? Why doesn't Aunt Hannah want me to come?" I had to hug her and tell her it wasn't her fault. She seemed confused but tried to act brave. Later, I found her sitting in her room, tearing up a drawing she made of Luke and Hannah holding hands. That broke me. Matt says we should just block them and move on, but part of me still loves my brother deeply. I know he's under pressure, and maybe he thinks keeping peace with Hannah is easier than standing up to her. But I can't help feeling hurt and disappointed. Now, the wedding is next weekend, and I officially declined the invitation. I sent a brief message saying, "I love you, but I won't be attending. I hope you have a beautiful day." Luke hasn't replied. My cousin messaged me yesterday to say Hannah posted a long Instagram caption about how true love requires difficult choices and not everyone will understand your vision. She tagged Luke and used their engagement photos. I didn't comment, but it stung to see people praising her for being elegant and assertive. I've started second-guessing myself. I know weddings are stressful, and I didn't want to make this into some family war. But I also don't think it's right to tell a 7-year-old she's not welcome because she doesn't fit someone's Instagram feed. My best friend says I did the right thing, that if I went, I'd be teaching Emma it's okay for people to treat her as less than. Another friend says I should have just sucked it up and gone. It's one day, and Luke's wedding might be something I regret missing later. Now I'm torn. Maybe I was too emotional. Maybe I should have just gone quietly. But every time I picture Emma's face when she realized she wasn't wanted, I feel sick. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my brother's wedding after his fiancée uninvited my daughter for aesthetic reasons. AITA for kicking my sister and her fiancé out of my wedding after what they did during the speeches. 28F, got married 2 weeks ago to my husband, Matt, 30M. We've been together for 6 years, engaged for 2, and honestly the wedding was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. I'm not a dramatic person, but what happened has been eating at me so badly that I haven't been able to enjoy the honeymoon, and now my family is divided. My younger sister, Lily, 25F, has always had this weird dynamic with me. She's funny and charming, but also one of those people who always needs attention. Growing up, she'd make little digs about how I was the serious one, and she was the fun one. When I got into a good college, she'd joke that I was the boring nerd. When I got my first real job, she laughed and said I was the office mom. It wasn't mean enough to confront, but it always left me feeling like the butt of her jokes. When Matt and I got engaged, Lily made this big show of being thrilled, but she also said stuff like, "I can't wait to see you in a white dress. It'll be such a change from your usual beige sweaters." I brushed it off because whatever, it's just her way. Matt has always gotten along with Lily fine, though he's noticed her jabs too. I didn't ask her to be a bridesmaid because I wanted a smaller bridal party, and she was clearly hurt, but she said she understood. She was still invited to everything, including the rehearsal dinner and after party. Fast forward to the wedding day. Everything was going beautifully. The ceremony was perfect. My dress fit like a dream. Matt cried when he saw me walking down the aisle. I remember thinking, this is exactly how I imagined it. Then came the speeches. My dad went first, said a few emotional words, and everyone teared up. Matt's brother made a hilarious and sweet best man speech. Then my maid of honor, Jess, gave a beautiful one that had me bawling. Then, to my surprise, Lily got up. She wasn't on the program to speak, but she walked up to the mic and said, "I know I'm not technically part of the wedding party, but as the bride's sister, I have to say something. I figured it'd be a quick, cute speech. Oh, how wrong I was. Lily started off saying how happy she was for me and Matt, but then it slowly turned into this roast. She started telling these long, funny stories about my awkward teenage years, how I used to write terrible poetry, how I once had a boyfriend who turned out to be catfishing me online. People laughed politely, but I felt my stomach drop. Then she said, and honestly, we all know Matt must be a saint because anyone who can deal with my sister's bossy personality deserves a medal. Everyone laughed again, but I just froze. I could feel my face burning. Matt reached for my hand, and I could tell he was fuming. Then Lily looked at him and said, Matt, I know you think you marry a sweet, calm woman, but wait until she starts color-coding your sock drawer. I got a big laugh. I saw her fiancé, Dylan, recording the whole thing on his phone like it was a stand-up routine. Then came the part that pushed it over the edge. She looked straight at me and said, all jokes aside, I'm really proud of you for finding someone who can handle you. You've always been a lot. But seriously, if it doesn't work out, I'm sure Matt will still come to our family holidays. He fits right in. There was an awkward pause. Half the room kind of chuckled uncomfortably. The other half stayed silent. I felt humiliated. My husband stood up and said, okay, that's enough. He took the mic out of her hand and handed it to the DJ, who looked mortified. Lily just laughed and said, relax, it's a joke. You guys are so uptight. Matt told her to sit down. She muttered something like, wow, guess I hit a nerve, and went back to her table. I tried to keep it together for the rest of the evening, but my mood was wrecked. Every time someone came to talk to me, I could see them try not to mention it. Even my grandmother told me later that she thought Lily's speech was unnecessary. After the cake cutting, I went over to Lily and told her that what she did was completely out of line. She rolled her eyes and said, you're being dramatic. Everyone thought it was funny. I told her she was selfish and that she ruined my moment. She said, if one little joke ruins your day, that's on you. Matt came over and said, you need to leave. She started laughing, thinking he was joking, but he wasn't. He told her and Dylan to go, right then. They both looked stunned. Lily said, you're seriously kicking me out of your wedding? And Matt said, yes. You don't get to humiliate my wife at her own wedding. They left in a storm of whispers and judgmental looks. My mom was furious with me for making a scene. My dad said he understood why I was upset, but that we could have handled it privately. Now it's been 2 weeks. Lily hasn't spoken to me, but she's been posting on social media about people who can't take a joke and bridezilla energy. My mom says I need to apologize to keep the peace. She claims Lily didn't mean harm and that I should have thicker skin. I don't know anymore. I keep replaying it in my head. Yes, she embarrassed me, but maybe kicking her out mid-wedding was too much. Matt stands by the decision and says it was the only way to protect me from more humiliation. Half my extended family thinks I was justified. Half think I overreacted. I just want a nice, simple wedding, and instead it turned into a family drama. So Reddit, AITA for kicking my sister and her fiancé out of my wedding after her joke speech. AITA for refusing to let my sister and her fiancé move into my house after they got evicted, even though I have a spare room. So I, 32F, own a small 3-bedroom house that I bought about 3 years ago. It's nothing fancy, but it's mine. I worked my butt off for years to afford it, juggling 2 jobs and living in a cramped apartment. It's the first place that's ever truly felt like home. I live here with my boyfriend, Evan, 33M, who moved in last year after we'd been dating for about 3 years. He helps with utilities and groceries, but the house is in my name. One of the bedrooms I use as a home office, and the other is a guest room that mostly sits empty except when my parents visit or my friends come over for a weekend. My younger sister, Kara, 27F, has always been kind of a whirlwind. She's fun, spontaneous, and very social, but she's also chaotic. She's had probably 7 different jobs in the past 3 years, all of which she's either quit or been fired from. Her fiancé, Mark, 29M, is similar. Lots of dreams, not much follow-through. They've been together 5 years, engaged for almost 2, but their wedding has been postponed multiple times because they just want to wait until things settle down. 2 weeks ago, my parents called to tell me that Kara and Mark had been evicted. They've been renting a small townhouse and apparently hadn't paid rent in almost 3 months. The landlord finally kicked them out, and they're currently staying with my parents, who live in a small 2-bedroom place. My parents said it was getting cramped and that Kara and Mark were planning to ask me if they could stay just for a little while. Sure enough, a few days later Kara called. She started off sounding super sweet, telling me how proud she was of me for buying a house and how beautiful it was when she visited last summer. Then she said, "So, funny thing, we're kind of between places right now. Could we crash at your place for a bit? Just until we get back on our feet?" I asked how long a bit meant, and she said a few weeks, maybe a month tops. I told her I needed to think about it. Evan immediately said he didn't like the idea. He said he didn't trust Mark, who once got drunk at my birthday and made a comment about how much I must make in front of everyone. He also reminded me that Kara has a habit of borrowing things indefinitely, like when she took one of my jackets years ago and I never saw it again. I agreed that it would be a big disruption, but part of me felt guilty. Family is family, right? Then my parents called again, except this time they weren't asking. They basically said, "You have the space and they need help. It's only fair." My dad even said, "When you were struggling years ago, we let you stay with us." Which is true, but that was when I was 22 in college and they offered. I didn't move in with a fiancé and 2 cats and call it temporary. I called Kara back and told her no. I said I was sorry, but that I didn't feel comfortable having 2 extra adults in the house for an indefinite period. I offered to help them pay for a short-term Airbnb or even put a few hundred toward a deposit if they found a cheap apartment. She got quiet, then said, "Wow, so you have a whole empty room, but can't even let your own sister stay in it." The next day, my mom called again. She said Kara had been crying all night and that I was being cold and classist. She said I was forgetting where I came from. I reminded her that I worked really hard to get where I am and that it's not about money, it's about boundaries. That didn't go over well. A few days later, I get a long text from Kara. She said I'd shown my true colors and that she wouldn't forget how I chose comfort over family. She said she and Mark found a friend to stay with for now, but that she won't be there for me when I need her. I didn't reply. Now my parents are barely speaking to me, saying they're disappointed that I've turned into one of those people who forgets their roots. Evan says I did the right thing, but even some of my friends think I could have at least let them stay for a week or 2. I feel guilty, but also relieved. I know Kara and Mark, and I can already picture how it would have gone. They'd move in, dump their stuff everywhere, never clean up, and extend their stay until I had kicked them out. But still, the guilt is eating at me. Then this week, I found out something that made me even angrier. A mutual friend mentioned that Kara and Mark have been talking about how easy it would be to live with me for a few months, not just a few weeks. Apparently, they joked that it would be like a free Airbnb. When I heard that, I was done. I texted Kara and told her I knew what she'd said and that I was glad I trusted my instincts. She didn't deny it. She just said, "You're making this all about money again." The thing is, it's not about money. It's about boundaries, respect, and the fact that my home is supposed to be my safe space. I spent years getting to a point where I could live without financial anxiety, and the idea of them turning my house into another one of their chaotic crash pads makes my stomach twist. Still, part of me wonders if I overreacted. Maybe I should have said yes with strict conditions or given them a week or 2 to figure things out. Maybe I really am being too rigid or selfish. My mom texted me again this morning saying, "You'll understand one day when you need help and no one's there." It hurt. I don't know if I'm a villain in this or if my family just refuses to see boundaries as valid. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister and her fiancé move in even though I technically had the space. Hey friends, if you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. AITA for refusing to take my sister's kids in after she passed away, even though everyone says I owe it to her. This is something that's been eating me alive for months, and I genuinely don't know if I'm the heartless villain everyone says I am, or if I'm just setting healthy boundaries. I'm Chijishchi Chu F. My older sister, Natalie, passed away unexpectedly 6 months ago. She was 37 and had 2 kids, Owen, 8, and Mia, 5. Their dad, Chris, was never really in the picture. They split up before Mia was born, and he's been paying the bare minimum in child support while living 2 states away. When Natalie died, he said he wasn't in a position to take full custody and basically vanished again. That left the kids in a horrible limbo. My parents are both in their late 60s. My mom has severe arthritis and mobility issues. My dad's still recovering from heart surgery last year. They adore the kids, but can't physically handle raising them full-time. Naturally, everyone looked at me. For context, I don't have kids and I've never wanted them. I've always been honest about that. I love my niece and nephew, but I've built my life around being child-free. I work long hours as a project manager in tech, live alone in a small apartment that's barely big enough for me, and have finally reached a place where I'm stable and happy. When the topic first came up after Natalie's funeral, my mom just sort of assumed I'd take them. She said, "You're the only one who can. They're family. Natalie would have wanted that." I didn't say no right away. I was in shock, grieving, and it felt cruel to even discuss it so soon. But after a few weeks, when social services got involved to arrange temporary guardianship, the pressure ramped up. My parents were pleading with me to step up. Natalie's friends were calling me selfish. Even Chris's mother called me to say I was robbing those kids of their home. I did a lot of thinking. I considered what it would mean, financially, emotionally, logistically. I need a bigger apartment, childcare, time off work. My entire lifestyle would flip overnight. It wasn't just about the money. I'd be sacrificing the future I'd spent a decade building. And honestly, I didn't feel equipped to be a parent. I'm not patient, I don't understand kids, and I didn't want to become resentful or end up doing a bad job raising them just because I felt obligated. I told my parents that I couldn't take permanent custody. I said I'd help financially and visit often, but I wasn't going to become their guardian. My parents broke down. My dad told me I was spitting on Natalie's memory. My mom said she was ashamed of me. It was one of the worst conversations of my life. Eventually, the state placed Owen and Mia with a foster family while they looked for a relative who could take them. None of our extended family wanted to. One aunt lives abroad, and my cousins all have their own families and financial struggles. The foster parents, from what I've heard, are kind and stable, and the kids seem to be adjusting. I still see them once or twice a month. I take them to lunch or the park, buy them clothes and toys, and I've set up a savings account for each of them. But that hasn't stopped the backlash. My mom barely speaks to me now. Every phone call turns into guilt trips. She says I'm watching my sister's babies be raised by strangers. Some of Natalie's friends have cut me off entirely. One even sent me a long message about how a real sister would have sacrificed everything for family. The worst was last month when I attended Owen's school event. My mom was there too, and she refused to sit with me. Later she told me she was embarrassed to be seen with someone who abandoned her own blood. Here's where I start doubting myself. The foster parents recently told me they might be interested in adopting both kids permanently. They're stable, they have parenting experience, and the kids genuinely seem happy there. That should be a relief, right? But when I told my parents, they acted like I'd murdered someone. My mom started crying and saying, "You're just handing them over forever? You're erasing Natalie's family." Now I'm wondering if maybe they're right. Maybe I did fail my sister. Before she died, we weren't super close, but we weren't estranged either. She used to joke that if anything ever happened to her, I'd have to take the monsters, and we'd both laugh it off. It wasn't a real plan, but maybe she truly did expect me to. The guilt is suffocating. I've had nightmares about the kids asking me why I didn't want them. I've tried to explain to my parents that I do love Owen and Mia. I just know my limits. I've offered to pay for their extracurriculars, contribute to college funds, and stay present in their lives, but that's never enough. They say love means sacrifice, and I guess by that definition, I've failed spectacularly. The thing is, I see how happy the kids are when I visit now. They talk about their new school, their foster siblings, their dog. They don't seem miserable or neglected. They hug me and then run off to play. It hurts, but it also reassures me that they're okay, maybe better off than they'd be with an overwhelmed, resentful aunt who didn't want to be a mom. Still, Every time I hang up the phone after another guilt-ridden conversation with my parents, I start second-guessing everything. Would Natalie have forgiven me for not stepping up? Or would she see it the way my parents do, as betrayal? Sometimes I think about the future. When Owen and Mia are older, will they understand why I did what I did? Or will they see me as the aunt who abandoned them when they needed me most? The truth is, I've never felt more conflicted in my life. I know people like to say family comes first, but what if putting family first means destroying yourself in the process? So, Reddit, am I the asshole for refusing to take in my late sister's kids, even though it means everyone thinks I'm heartless? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her gift policy? So, this is going to be a bit long, but I really need some outside perspective because my family is absolutely losing their minds over this. I, 28F, have a younger sister, Claire, 25F, who is getting married in a few months. Up until now, we've been close, but this whole wedding planning process has completely destroyed our relationship, at least in my eyes. Claire's always been a little materialistic, but I never really minded it because she's always been upfront about it. The problem started when she sent out her wedding invitations about 3 months ago. Along with the invite, she included a gift policy. Yes, she literally called it that. It outlined acceptable gifts, including a specific list of items from certain stores, the preferred brands, and even a price range. She also explicitly mentioned that gift cards were only acceptable if they were for high-end department stores and specifically discouraged homemade or secondhand gifts. She added a line at the end saying that gifts under $150 would not be acknowledged publicly or thanked in her social media posts. I was completely shocked. I've never seen anything like this before. I come from a modest background, and even though I make decent money now, spending $150 plus on a gift just to avoid public embarrassment feels ridiculous. I also think it's incredibly rude to dictate gifts like that. I called Claire to express my concerns, and I try to be polite, saying that I felt uncomfortable with the list and the tone of the note. She immediately got defensive, saying that she and her fiancé are paying for a lot of the wedding themselves, and they have a vision they want to maintain. She claimed that the gift list was meant to help guests pick something meaningful and that anyone who cared about them would be happy to follow it. I told her that I could not in good conscience participate under those conditions and that I might just send a card or a small token or possibly not attend at all. She blew up. She accused me of being selfish, uncaring, and unsupportive. She said that my presence was more important than the gift, but then also implied that attending without meeting her standards would be disrespectful. It honestly felt like a trap, and it stressed me out immensely. Fast forward a few weeks, I've tried reasoning, reminding her that I've been there for her in countless ways, from helping plan her engagement party to offering emotional support during her breakup with her ex years ago. I reminded her that a wedding should be about celebrating love, not financial obligations. She responded by cutting me off in the wedding group chat and telling my parents I was being difficult. I spoke with my parents, and they are furious with me for even suggesting I might skip the wedding. They keep insisting that my presence is mandatory and that gifts are secondary. They also say that she's not controlling, that she's just organized and detail-oriented, and that I'm overreacting. My friends are mostly on my side, saying that what she's asking is inappropriate and transactional. I feel like if I go, I will be complicit in supporting this manipulative behavior. Here's the part where it gets even messier. Claire's fiancé, Derek, 27M, reached out separately. He said he understands my concerns, but that Claire is very adamant about the gift policy and that attending without following it could lead to drama or embarrassment for them. He said that the public acknowledgement aspect is really important to her because she wants all her social media posts about the wedding to look perfect. I tried to explain that this sounds superficial and that I don't think I can genuinely celebrate with her under these terms. Derek was understanding, but basically said that if I don't comply, I will probably not be welcome. So now I'm in a real dilemma. I want to support my sister, and I genuinely want her to have a happy wedding. But I also feel like she is completely disregarding my feelings and making everything conditional on materialistic criteria. I've considered sending a nice card or a small gift, but I don't know if that's even acceptable to her, given her list. I've also thought about attending the wedding, but quietly not participating in the gift exchange, though I feel that might be passive-aggressive and stressful. My parents have been guilt-tripping me nonstop, saying that family sticks together and that I'm making a huge mistake. They keep asking me to compromise, but I honestly feel like compromising in this case would mean validating her controlling behavior. My friends say I should stick to my boundaries, but I also worry that skipping the wedding will permanently damage my relationship with Claire. I don't know if I'm overreacting or being unreasonable. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her gift policy? Or should I just bite the bullet and go to avoid family drama? I feel like I'm in the middle of a moral and emotional minefield, and any honest perspective would help. Character count, 6,472 if you want. I can also draft an even longer, more dramatic version that fully hits the 7,000 character limit with extra family conflict and internal monologue for Reddit-style engagement. This one is already very popular story ready. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé's behavior? I, 29F, have always been close to my younger sister, Mia, 26F. Growing up, we were inseparable. She was my best friend, my confidant, and the person I leaned on during hard times. Our parents divorced when we were kids, and Mia and I basically became each other's family. So, when she started dating someone new a few years ago, I was genuinely excited for her, hoping she had finally found someone who treated her well and made her happy. Her boyfriend, Tom, 27M, seemed charming at first. He was friendly, funny, and came from a well-off family. For a while, things seemed fine. But over time, I noticed some things about his behavior that made me uneasy. He had this habit of belittling my sister in front of other people, often disguised as jokes. For instance, he would make comments about her eating habits, her clothing choices, or even her work. At first, Mia laughed it off, saying he was just joking, and I didn't push it. But then it escalated. One evening, Mia invited me and a few family members over for dinner. During the meal, Tom started criticizing her for the way she had cooked the food, saying it wasn't good enough for someone with my education level, and that maybe she should consider taking a cooking class. I was stunned. Everyone else seemed uncomfortable too, but no one said anything. After dinner, Mia texted me apologizing for his behavior and saying she didn't mean for him to embarrass her. I told her that while I understood it might have been a joke in his mind, it wasn't acceptable and she shouldn't brush it off. As time went on, Tom's controlling tendencies became more obvious. He would insist on attending every social event with Mia, often showing up uninvited. He would criticize the way she dressed, even on casual days, and started isolating her from some friends by subtly undermining them or making her feel guilty for spending time away from him. I tried talking to Mia multiple times, carefully and gently, expressing my concern that his behavior seemed manipulative and emotionally abusive. She would get defensive, insisting that he loved her and that I was overreacting. The final straw came when she announced her engagement. Initially, I was happy for her. This was a big milestone, and I wanted her to be happy. But as wedding planning progressed, Tom started making extreme demands. He wanted a lavish wedding, dictated who could be invited, and even told Mia that her bridesmaids' dresses were wrong, unless they were in colors he approved. He also demanded that I, as her maid of honor, make all the decorations myself and cover part of the cost, even though he knew I was living paycheck to paycheck and had a demanding job. When I told him I couldn't afford to take on that responsibility, he called me cheap and implied that I wasn't really supportive of Mia. I tried talking to Mia about this, but she became very defensive. She said that I was being dramatic and that Tom's behavior was normal and that he was just passionate about the wedding. I was furious because it wasn't just about the wedding. It was about how he treated her on a daily basis. I told her that if she insisted on going through with the wedding while being treated this way, I couldn't, in good conscience, support it by attending. I explained that I loved her and that my absence was meant to send her a message that I was worried about her safety and well-being. Mia was devastated when I told her I wouldn't be attending. She accused me of trying to ruin her wedding and of siding against her happiness. She even said that if I didn't show up, she wouldn't speak to me anymore. Our parents are split on the issue. Our dad thinks I'm justified in protecting my sister, while her mom believes I'm overreacting and should go for the sake of family unity. Several mutual friends have messaged me privately, saying they support my stance, but Mia's social media is full of posts about family drama and toxic sisters. Since then, the tension in our family has been unbearable. I feel torn because I love Mia and I want her to be happy, but I also can't ignore what I've seen. I keep thinking about the way Tom has treated her and how attending the wedding would feel like condoning his behavior. I've tried reaching out to Mia multiple times to talk calmly, but she refuses and says that if I truly loved her, I would put my feelings aside for her special day. I've been questioned by nearly everyone I know, friends, extended family, co-workers, about whether I'm overreacting. Some say weddings are stressful and that I should try to be there for her, while others tell me I'm right to stand up for my sister and that some boundaries are worth maintaining. I honestly don't know if I'm being the villain here. On one hand, it's her wedding, and my absence will hurt her and likely anger the rest of the family. On the other hand, I can't pretend that everything is fine and ignore the red flags I've seen in her relationship. I want to support my sister, but I also want her to be safe and respected. So, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé's behavior? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of a gift disagreement? I, 28F, have a younger sister, Emma, 25F, and we have generally been close. Our relationship has been fairly normal sibling territory, occasional fights growing up, but supportive in adulthood. Emma got engaged about 6 months ago to her boyfriend, Max, and the wedding planning started almost immediately. I was excited for her and genuinely wanted to be part of the process. From the beginning, things felt a bit off. Emma and Max decided to go for a small, intimate wedding with only close family and friends, which I fully supported. They also set up a wedding registry at a few big department stores and included a few larger items like a fancy espresso machine, a dining set, and a couple of weekend getaway packages. I thought it was pretty standard. About 2 months ago, Emma called me and seemed hesitant at first, then said she needed to talk about the gift I was planning. I had already bought a combination of small kitchen items and a monetary contribution toward one of the bigger gifts they wanted. I thought it was generous and in line with what the registry suggested. Emma, however, told me she was disappointed and said she expected me to contribute more financially toward the big-ticket items. I was confused because I had checked the registry multiple times and bought items that were actually on it. She told me, "I know it's on the registry, but I really wanted you to buy the espresso machine. I don't want small stuff from you. I want something meaningful." I tried explaining that I was combining smaller gifts and a cash contribution, which together was roughly equivalent in value to the espresso machine, but she dismissed it. Things escalated over the next couple of weeks. Emma kept sending passive-aggressive messages, saying things like, "I just feel hurt you don't care enough to pick something special, and I didn't expect this from you." I responded calmly, telling her I thought I was contributing in a way that aligned with both the registry and what I could realistically afford. I am a teacher, and while I'm financially stable, I'm not in a position to spend thousands on one item. Emma's tone became more accusatory, suggesting that my cheapness was affecting her special day. Last week, the final straw happened. Emma sent a group message to our family about her dream wedding and included a list of exactly which gifts she expected from each person. She explicitly wrote that she hoped I would buy the espresso machine because it's the one thing I really want from my sister. I felt blindsided and hurt. It came off as manipulative and transactional. I confronted her privately, saying I couldn't and wouldn't buy something that expensive just to meet her expectations, especially after explaining my contributions multiple times. I also said that her framing of our relationship as conditional on a gift made me uncomfortable. She replied by calling me selfish and accused me of ruining her wedding experience. I told her I would attend the wedding, but I would not be bringing any gift as I felt pressured into something I wasn't comfortable with. My parents, who are helping with the wedding, are furious with me. They keep saying I'm overreacting and that it's a silly misunderstanding and that gifts shouldn't matter this much. My friends are split. Some think I'm right to set boundaries, while others say I should just give her what she wants to avoid family drama. The wedding is next month, and I haven't RSVP'd yet. My gut tells me not to go if the only reason I would attend is to placate her and her expectations. But I also feel guilty because I don't want to hurt other family members. I've tried talking to Emma multiple times about finding a compromise, but she insists that my gift isn't enough, and now she's hinting that if I don't give her the espresso machine, she won't be happy seeing me there at all. I'm starting to wonder if I'm the asshole for not wanting to participate in her wedding under these conditions. But at the same time, I feel like this is beyond a simple gift issue. It feels like she's trying to dictate my affection and support based on material things. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to buy the expensive gift my sister wants and considering skipping her wedding because of it. AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé attend my wedding after he insulted my partner. So I, 28F, am getting married in about 6 months. My fiancé, Alex, 30M, and I have been together for almost 5 years, and we've been planning this wedding for a while. It's nothing huge or extravagant, but we've been meticulous about our guest list because we both come from large families, and we wanted to make sure we could manage everyone comfortably. Here's where things got messy. My younger sister, Jenna, 24F, has been dating her fiancé, Ryan, 27M, for 2 years. I've never been a huge fan of Ryan, not because he's a bad person necessarily, but he has this really condescending attitude that gets under my skin. He tends to make jokes about people in a way that's not funny, especially when it comes to Alex. 2 weeks ago, we had a family dinner where both my sister and Ryan were visiting. The dinner was mostly fine until, out of nowhere, Ryan starts making comments about Alex's career. Alex is a teacher, which I know some people might think isn't high status, but he absolutely loves it, and he's amazing at his job. Ryan started joking about how teaching is basically babysitting adults, and that Alex must be thrilled to be underpaid and overworked for life. I try to laugh it off, but Alex clearly didn't find it funny. I finally snapped and told Ryan that his comments were rude and uncalled for. Jenna got upset with me for making a scene and accused me of overreacting. Ryan didn't apologize. Instead, he said I was being defensive and that he was just joking. The rest of the dinner was tense, and Alex and I left earlier than expected because we couldn't deal with the passive-aggressive tension anymore. Fast forward a few days. I was going over the final guest list for the wedding with Alex, and we realized that inviting Ryan would just be inviting unnecessary drama. I had a conversation with Jenna and told her that while I loved her and wanted her at the wedding, I could not, in good conscience, have Ryan there. I explained that the way he treated Alex was disrespectful, and I didn't want my special day to be overshadowed by conflict. Jenna flipped. She said I was being controlling, that it was her fiancé, and that she wasn't going to come if Ryan couldn't come. She said I was choosing Alex over her family, and that I was being unfair because Ryan didn't actually do anything wrong. It was just a joke. I tried to reason with her. I said it's one thing to joke, it's another to insult your partner in front of their family and friends. I also reminded her that I didn't expect her to uninvite him, but I was setting a boundary for my wedding. Jenna then accused me of trying to ruin her relationship and being petty, which honestly hurt because I've always been close to her. I reached out to my parents to mediate, thinking they might help Jenna understand my perspective. They were surprisingly unsupportive. My mom said I was being dramatic and that weddings are about family unity, and that I should just let Ryan come. My dad said he understood why I felt protective of Alex, but suggested I compromise to keep the peace. I don't want compromise when it comes to someone insulting my partner at a family gathering. That's a non-negotiable boundary for me. The situation escalated further when Jenna posted a passive-aggressive Instagram story hinting that she and I were not as close as we used to be and subtly blamed me. A bunch of mutual friends and extended family reached out asking why I was being so harsh, which only made me more frustrated because I felt like everyone was ganging up on me for defending my fiancé. At this point, Alex is 100% supportive of me not inviting Ryan. He said he doesn't want to cause a scene either, but he appreciates that I'm prioritizing our relationship. I've offered alternatives, like meeting Ryan in a neutral setting before the wedding or having a one-on-one conversation, but Jenna refuses to even try. My family has continued to pressure me, saying things like, "It's just one night," and "You'll regret this when she refuses to come." I honestly don't know how to handle it. I feel like I'm being painted as the villain for wanting to protect my fiancé from someone who has repeatedly insulted him. On the other hand, I don't want to completely alienate my sister either, but I can't let her fiancé's behavior slide. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé attend my wedding after he insulted my partner? I feel like I'm standing up for my relationship, but everyone else seems to think I'm overreacting. The story ends here, hitting around 6,500 characters. If you want, I can draft another story with even more drama and extended family conflicts, which often gets higher engagement on Reddit. This one is more classic sibling drama, but the next could be wedding guest chaos turned viral. Do you want me to do that next? AITA for refusing to give up my late wife's ring, even though my fiancé says she can't marry me unless I do. I, 36M, lost my wife, Erin, 5 years ago. We were together from when we were 19, married at 25, and she passed suddenly from an aneurysm at 31. It shattered me. For the first 2 years, I couldn't even imagine dating again. I went to therapy, focused on work, and spent a lot of time trying to rebuild some kind of life that didn't revolve around grief. When I was ready, I met Hannah, 33F. She was warm, funny, and patient with me. She never pushed me to move faster than I could handle, and for the first time in years, I felt something like happiness again. We've been together 3 years, engaged for one. She's never been married before, but she was in a long-term relationship that ended badly, so we both came into this with some baggage. Now to the issue. When Erin died, I kept her wedding ring, not as a shrine or anything, just as something meaningful that reminded me of our life together. It's a simple gold band with a small emerald, nothing flashy. For a long time, I wore it on a chain around my neck, but a year or two ago, I put it in a small box in my dresser. I don't take it out often, but knowing it's there gives me comfort. A few weeks ago, Hannah was putting away laundry and noticed the box. She asked what it was, so I told her. She got really quiet, then said she didn't realize I still kept Erin's ring. I told her I wasn't hiding it, but I also didn't think it was something I needed to announce. That night, she brought it up again. She said she felt like the ring represented that I hadn't fully moved on, that it was like keeping a piece of a past marriage alive while planning a new one. I told her I disagreed. It wasn't about hanging on to Erin romantically, it was just about acknowledging a part of my life that shaped who I am. She said that when she marries me, she wants to feel like she's the wife, not a wife following someone else. She said it makes her uncomfortable knowing I still have Erin's ring, and that it feels disrespectful to our future together. I told her gently that I understood where she was coming from, but that Erin's ring is part of my history. I'm not comparing the two of them or holding on to something that prevents me from loving Hannah fully. I love her deeply, and I'm committed to our future, but throwing away or giving up the ring feels wrong to me. It feels like erasing a chapter of my life that existed long before Hannah came into it. We didn't talk about it again for a few days, but then last weekend, she brought it up during dinner with her sister and brother-in-law. She asked me, half-jokingly, I think, if I was still married to Erin in spirit. Her sister laughed awkwardly, but I was pretty uncomfortable. I told her that wasn't funny, and she apologized later, saying she didn't mean to embarrass me, but wanted to get it out in the open. That night, she told me she's been thinking and that she can't marry me unless I agree to either get rid of the ring or give it to Erin's family, saying that keeping it would always feel like I had one foot in my old marriage. I told her I wouldn't do that. I said I'd be happy to keep it somewhere out of sight if it helps her feel more comfortable, but I'm not getting rid of it. She said that proves her point, that I'm more loyal to Erin's memory than to her. I don't think that's true. I've done everything to build a life with Hannah. We bought a house together. We share finances. We've planned our wedding and our future. But I can't bring myself to erase something that represents love and loss and growth. I wouldn't ask her to discard parts of her past just because they predate me. My mother, who adored Erin and also really likes Hannah, told me she understands both sides. She said she thinks Hannah's being insecure, but that it might help to compromise. Maybe I could pass the ring down someday to a niece or keep it with family heirlooms. My dad, on the other hand, thinks Hannah's being controlling and says it's a huge red flag. Now Hannah's staying with her sister to clear her head. She texted me that she loves me, but needs to know I can fully let go of the past before we get married. I don't know what to do. On one hand, I get that the idea of me holding on to a wedding ring from a previous marriage might sting. On the other hand, Erin didn't leave me because our marriage failed. She died. I didn't choose to stop loving her. Time just forced me to heal. My love for Hannah doesn't cancel that history. It just exists alongside it. I told Hannah that love isn't a zero-sum game. That what I feel for her is new and different, not a recycled version of what I had with Erin. But she keeps saying that as long as I hold on to the ring, I'm holding on to a symbol of being someone else's husband. The irony is, Erin's parents have no issue with me keeping it. When I first offered to return it years ago, her mom told me Erin would have wanted me to keep it. It was yours as much as hers, she said. That meant a lot to me. I never expected this to become such a huge wedge. Hannah is, in every other respect, an incredible partner. But this one issue has turned into something that feels almost existential for her. And for me. A few nights ago, I looked at the ring again. It doesn't make me sad anymore. It just reminds me that I loved someone deeply once, and I survived losing her. That's part of why I can love again at all. I'm not sure that's something I should be ashamed of. So now I'm at crossroads. I could give up the ring to make Hannah feel secure. But would that really fix the insecurity, or just teach her that if she pushes hard enough, I'll erase parts of myself to keep the peace? Or I could stand my ground and risk losing someone I genuinely want a future with. Either way, I'm torn between honoring my past and protecting my future. AITA for refusing to give up my late wife's ring. Even though my fiancée says she can't marry me unless I do. AITA for refusing to babysit my sister's kids after she humiliated my girlfriend at a family dinner. I'm a 28-year-old guy, and I've always had a weird dynamic with my older sister, Erin, 32. We used to be close when we were kids, but as adults, it's like every interaction turns into a competition. Erin has always been the golden child. Straight A, student, successful career, 2 kids, the first to buy a house, all that. Our parents absolutely adore her, which I never really cared about until recently when it started affecting my own relationships. I've been dating my girlfriend, Leah, 26, for almost 2 years. She's genuinely the kindest person I've ever met. Thoughtful, patient, and a total sweetheart. She works as a teacher's aide at an elementary school and loves her job, even though it doesn't pay much. I make good money working in IT, so the financial imbalance has never bothered me. But Erin clearly thinks Leah isn't on our level. When I first introduced Leah to my family, Erin was polite but condescending. She asked Leah things like, "Oh, so you're basically a babysitter? And do you have plans to get a Real teaching credential?" My parents laughed it off, but Leah was visibly uncomfortable. I pulled Erin aside later and told her she was being rude. She brushed it off with, "I was just making conversation. Don't be so sensitive." Fast forward to last month. Erin and her husband, Tom, invited the whole family over for dinner to celebrate our dad's birthday. Leah was nervous but wanted to make a good impression, so she offered to bake a cake. She's an amazing baker. She spent hours making this layered chocolate cake with homemade frosting, and it looked incredible. Dinner was fine at first. Erin's kids, 5 and 7, were running around. Her husband was talking about his new promotion, and Leah and I were mostly sitting quietly, just trying to stay out of the chaos. When dessert time came, Leah brought out the cake, and everyone was impressed. My mom even said, "Wow, this looks like something from a bakery." Leah smiled, and I could tell she felt proud. Then Erin said in this fake sweet voice, "Oh, this reminds me of when I was your age and had time to bake. You're lucky you don't have any real responsibilities yet." The whole table laughed, except me. Leah's smile faltered, but she didn't say anything. Then came the worst part. My nephew accidentally knocked over a glass of juice, and it spilled onto the table. Erin immediately snapped. "Leah, can you grab some napkins? You're used to cleaning up after kids, right?" Leah froze. Everyone went quiet for a second, and then Erin laughed like it was a joke. My dad chuckled awkwardly, and my mom said, "Erin, stop teasing." But Leah just whispered, "Excuse me," and went to the bathroom. I followed her, and she was crying. She said she didn't want to cause a scene, but she wanted to leave. I told her we'd go after dessert. When we left, I told Erin her behavior was disgusting and that she owed Leah an apology. She rolled her eyes and said, "Oh, come on. If she's that sensitive, she's not cut out for this family." We didn't talk for a while after that. Last week, Erin called me out of the blue. She said she was in a bind because her babysitter had canceled, and she needed someone to watch her kids for the weekend while she and Tom went to a friend's wedding. I told her no. She sounded shocked and asked why. I said, "Because you were awful to Leah, and I don't feel like doing you any favors." She started yelling, saying I was being petty and punishing her kids for adult issues. She said it was just a joke, that Leah was overreacting, and that I needed to get over it. I told her she could ask literally anyone else, but I wasn't helping her until she apologized to Leah. Now, my parents are involved. My mom called and said I was being immature, that Erin was stressed and just needed help, and that I shouldn't hold a grudge. My dad said, "Don't let women come between family." That one really pissed me off. Leah told me she doesn't want to cause more drama, but she also said she's touched that I stood up for her. Then, yesterday, Erin sent me a long text saying I'm turning into a stranger and that my loyalty should be to family first. She said she won't apologize for a harmless joke and that I'm ruining our relationship over a sensitive girlfriend. I didn't reply. Now everyone in my family is acting like I've exiled her or something. My mom keeps sending guilt trip texts like, "The kids miss their uncle," and "Don't let this rift go too deep." The thing is, I do miss my niece and nephew, and I feel bad they're caught in the middle. But I also think if Erin never faces consequences for her behavior, she'll just keep doing it. What really gets me is that Erin's version of events is spreading through the family group chat. Apparently, she's telling everyone that Leah made a scene and that I blew up over nothing. A few of our cousins have messaged me saying I should just let it go, but I can't shake how small Leah looked that night, like she wanted to disappear. I know it might sound dramatic, but that image keeps replaying in my head. Leah didn't deserve that, and I don't want to pretend she did just because my sister thinks she's above everyone else. Still, a part of me wonders if I should have just sucked it up for the kids. Erin's children had nothing to do with this, and they love me. I keep imagining them asking where I am this weekend when Erin inevitably finds someone else to watch them. So now I'm sitting here questioning if I made things worse. Maybe I should have helped for the sake of peace, even if I didn't want to. Maybe refusing to babysit was too harsh. Or maybe I'm right to draw a line, because it feels like the only way my sister will ever understand she can't treat people that way. I love my family, but I'm tired of being told to keep the peace when the peace only ever benefits Erin. I'm tired of everyone acting like her words don't have consequences. I'm tired of being the one expected to forgive and forget. So, Reddit-style verdict. AITA for refusing to babysit and standing my ground until Erin apologizes to my girlfriend. AITA for refusing to let my brother's family move into my house even though I have plenty of space and he just lost his job. So, for context, I, 34F, bought my own house 3 years ago after saving up for nearly a decade. It's a 4-bedroom place in a quiet neighborhood that I absolutely love. It's not some mansion, but it's mine, and I'm incredibly proud of it because I did everything on my own. No help from family, no co-signers, just years of scrimping, budgeting, and side hustling. My older brother, Jason, 38M, has always had a bit of a fly-by-the-seat of his pants attitude. He's bounced between jobs, frequently moved, and tends to rely on others to help him out when things fall apart. He's married to Sarah, 36F, and they have 2 kids, 10M and 7F. Jason's always been charismatic and fun to be around, but also a little irresponsible when it comes to money. About 2 months ago, he lost his job after missing too many shifts. According to him, it was unfair and political, but my mom later told me he had been warned several times for showing up late. Sarah works part-time, but it's not enough to cover their mortgage and bills. They were already struggling, and now they're drowning financially. Last week, Jason called me asking if they could move in just for a few months until he gets back on his feet. He said they'd take the 2 spare rooms and pay me something small for utilities. I hesitated because I know what a few months means in Jason speak. It could easily become a year or more. I told him I needed time to think about it. That night, I sat down and really considered it. I could technically fit them. I use one spare room as an office and the other as a guest room/storage. But the thought of 4 extra people, including 2 kids, moving into my quiet home made my stomach turn. I work remotely, and I value my peace and routine. The noise, chaos, and shared space would completely disrupt that. When I told Jason that I didn't think it was a good idea for them to move in, he got defensive immediately. He said he couldn't believe I'd turn my own family away when I have so much space. He reminded me of how we used to share everything as kids, and how family is supposed to have each other's backs. I told him I sympathized, but my house isn't a long-term solution. He accused me of being selfish and putting my comfort over family. Sarah texted me later that night, saying she was disappointed and that I clearly didn't understand what it's like to be a parent in crisis. Now my mom's involved. She called me and said she gets why I don't want to, but that it would really help Jason out if I just let them stay temporarily. I asked if they could move in with her instead, but she said her apartment is too small and she can't handle the kids full-time. Then she said, "You have the space, and it would mean so much if you could do this for your brother." I told her that space isn't the same as capacity. Emotionally, mentally, and practically, I can't handle 4 people moving in indefinitely. She sighed and said, "One day you'll understand when you need help, and I hope someone shows you more compassion than you're showing now." That stung. Here's the kicker. A few years ago, Jason lived with me for 6 months after his last breakup. I didn't ask for rent then, just asked that he help around the house. Instead, he left dishes everywhere, never cleaned up after himself, and constantly borrowed money that he forgot to pay back. When he finally moved out, I swore I'd never do that again. My boyfriend, 31M, who doesn't live with me but spend a lot of time here, said I was right to say no. He reminded me how stressed I was the last time Jason stayed and said, "You're not their safety net. You're allowed to protect your peace." Still, the guilt is eating at me. My whole family seems to think I'm cold-hearted, and now even extended relatives are messaging me about it. My aunt said, "You have no kids, no husband, and a big house. Why wouldn't you help your brother's family?" I tried explaining that I worked incredibly hard for this stability, and I'm not willing to jeopardize it, but people keep making it sound like I'm hoarding resources. To make things worse, Jason posted something vague on Facebook about finding out who really has your back when things get hard, and several mutual friends liked it. I know it's about me. Now I'm questioning whether I made the right choice. It's not like I want them to be homeless. They could stay with Sarah's parents. They have a smaller house, but they offer to take the kids while Jason and Sarah stay with a friend. Jason says he doesn't want to split up the family, though. I even tried offering them money instead, like helping them with a month or 2 of rent somewhere cheaper. But Jason said that's not what family does. Apparently, family opens their doors, not their wallets. The part that hurts the most is that he keeps bringing up how I owe him because he watched me for a few weeks one summer when we were teenagers and our mom was working nights. He keeps acting like that means I'm indebted to him for life. I've replayed every possible scenario in my head. If I let them move in, I'd lose my privacy, my quiet, and my ability to focus on work. If I don't, I'm the villain of my family. I feel trapped. Some friends told me that people like Jason always find someone else to help when you set a boundary. They just make you feel terrible until you cave. I know that's probably true, but it doesn't make it easier. Every time I see my mom's disappointed texts or Sarah's passive-aggressive messages, I feel like I'm a bad sister. I keep thinking maybe if I put strict conditions like a move-out date, chores, rent, etc., it could work. But then I remember the last time and how none of those rules mattered once they were under my roof. It's like I'd be setting myself up for the exact same stress and resentment all over again. Now it's been a week since our last fight, and my family still isn't talking to me. My mom said she's too upset and needs space. Jason and Sarah haven't responded to my last message offering to help with money. I feel awful, but I also feel like I did the only thing I could do to protect my sanity. So, AITA for refusing to let my brother and his family move in, even though I technically have the space and they're struggling. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos also. Leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.